I just had the opportunities to, because charter we have schools in Florida and Idaho and other states and such, Colorado. So I was able to start, attending some sessions and working with some of those leaders in other states. So that was pretty eye-opening for me as an educator to try to learn what other states are doing and kind of branch out beyond just Nevada and what we're doing, to really collaborate with some other states and hear some different, like I said, perspectives as well. Yeah. So that's where I just thought it was so valuable for CCSD to do the same. I was like, we all need, and everyone in the state of Nevada needs to be working together to not just make individual campuses better, but to make our entire state better in education.
Welcome to the Sapience Podcast, where we dive into the vital issues impacting education and community in Las Vegas. Today, we're joined by a distinguished leader in the educational landscape, Principal Lisa Satori. She is principal at Pinecrest Academy Sloan Canyon and Clark County School District Board Trustee. Principal Satori brings a wealth of experience in driving academic excellence and innovative educational practices at one of Nevada's top charter schools. Under her leadership, Pinecrest Academy has not only excelled in academic metrics, but has also been a beacon for implementing cutting-edge educational techniques that engage and inspire both students and teachers. Today, we'll explore Principal Satori's journey in education, her dual role as principal and board trustee, and her vision for future educational reform in Nevada. Welcome, Principal Satori.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I'd like if you started by telling us a little bit about your journey into education. What inspired you to take role as principal at Pinecrest?
Yes. Well, I started out here in CCSD. So I started out as a first grade teacher at CT Sewell. So I spent some time there, and then I moved into being an education computing strategist at Walker and Smalley Elementary. So I did that for a year, really working to integrate technology into education, working with teachers to help integrate technology to their classroom. It was really and that was, many years ago when it was really more of a newer thing, really getting that on board with that one-to-one technology. From there, I moved on to being a dean and an assistant principal in the district at Basic High School, which is now Basic Academy of International Studies. So I spent a few years there, and then was offered the principal position at Pinecrest Horizon, the Horizon campus originally, which was a K-8 at that time. And then as the Cadence campus opened and we had that expansion, we changed it to a K-5. And our middle school students attended Cadence. Then after 3 years there, then we were opening the Sloan Canyon campus, and I was offered the opening of a brand new K-12 campus. So that was just an exciting opportunity for me, and I jumped on board right away to gain that experience doing it. And I've been there since. This is now year 6. So yeah.
Well, they're so lucky to have you.
Thank you. And then yes, along the way, I joined the school board as well. So that was. I was joined that in January, so I was one of the appointed members. So there are 4 appointed members. I represent Clark County. So there's a Clark County representative, a North Las Vegas, a Henderson, and a Las Vegas representative.
So how do you balance?
That is the tricky part. So I definitely made sure when going into it that I just communicated with my family, with Pinecrest, with my Academica. We have a management company, which is Academica. Just wanted to make sure that they were aware of my goals and what I was wanting to do, is to make sure that everyone, and make sure CCSD as well, knew my time commitments with Pinecrest. So just to make sure that they could see how I had planned to balance it, and that it would work out. And so far it really has. Like I said, it's a lot going on, but I definitely feel like I'm able to manage my time to be able to attend to everything.
Yeah. How do you manage not just time, but like the personal conflicts that might arise in terms of goals?
Yeah. Well, a lot of the things really are in tandem. I mean, and that's really the reason I join boards and committees and things to get more involved, because it really aligns closely with what I'm doing at Pinecrest. It helps me grow as a professional, helps me give back to the education field. So that's kind of the same thing so a lot of the things that I'm doing really aren't in conflict. They're working together. So when I am attending board meetings, I'm gaining things that I take back to my campus, things that we're doing on our campus, I'm able to take back to CCSD and share, these are some of the strategies we tried or some of the things that we're doing, and kind of give that input, which is what I really saw that role as being. It was more of a advisory type position where I'm able to bring my strengths from being in the district and in charter, being at elementary, middle, and high school, so that I could just really bring that perspective to be able to share. So like I said, I think my juggling act kind of helps lend to the success of the positions I'm in.
Absolutely. I think it's helpful having someone who is so experienced, again, in such an innovative school and way of teaching and managing a school, having someone like you on the board to be able to represent that perspective.
Yeah, when I joined charter originally, having been in the district, I just had the opportunities to, because charter we have schools in Florida and Idaho and other states and such, Colorado. So I was able to start, attending some sessions and working with some of those leaders in other states. So that was pretty eye-opening for me as an educator to try to learn what other states are doing and kind of branch out beyond just Nevada and what we're doing, to really collaborate with some other states and hear some different, like I said, perspectives as well.
Yeah.
So that's where I just thought it was so valuable for CCSD to do the same. I was like, we all need, everyone in the state of Nevada needs to be working together to not just make individual campuses better, but to make our entire state better in education.
Absolutely. And I love the perspective that we can all learn from each other, and also learning never stops.
Yeah.
You embody that yourself, as like you keep striving to learn better ways of doing.
That's really what I want my students to see, my students and families to see, of, you're always learning. You never think you know it all. You never just settle back up in your laurels. Like the climate and everything, and things are always changing.
Yeah.
Students are changing. The world is changing. So there's new technologies. There's so much.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you were a big part of incorporating technology into your school. How do you see that evolving now? How do you integrate technology now?
Well, for our campus in particular, we are a one-to-one technology. So for elementary and middle school, they do not take the devices home. They have Chromebooks that they check out in the classroom. For our high school students, they do. They can take them to and from campus. Just really trying to create that balance. In trying to teach students responsible use of technology, particularly with AI and so many things. There's so many valuable things that they can learn if they use it as a tool, but there's also a lot of dangers, a lot of concerns. So I'm really just trying to educate our students, do some lessons with them, many lessons about proper use of technology, making sure our teachers are aware. So that's been definitely there's a learning curve there as well, because the students often are doing things that they are not even familiar with. So helping them stay on top of it, helping them educate the students. We try to do some family nights as well, or send some communication out to families for things that they can be looking at, for dangers that their child might be, encountering on online or on the internet, as well as, like I said, how to use it effectively. Because even as an adult, I'm finding new technology that's really helping me do my job more efficiently. It's helping me calendar my time better, to prioritize things. And so, I do want them to see it's not all bad. There are definitely ways to utilize it, particularly when you get into that differentiation. So we, with our one-to-one technology as well, do have some blended learning platforms that the students utilize. And that has really been a game changer, that we've done it for many years now, but it really does. You can see the difference, because students, the teacher is teaching whole group, teaching to the standards. They're pulling small group and doing that differentiation. They're conferencing one-on-one, but really having the students have that time where there's a lesson that's specifically tailored to what we saw in their data, what they saw in the benchmark and those diagnostic data that we do.
Absolutely.
That, and they're working on it on their own. And it's helpful when students go home to their families, because I tell my teachers I don't want a lot of homework outside of blended learning. I don't advocate a lot of homework. I really want them doing that targeted learning. So in the families, it doesn't require the families to have particular skills to assist them. It's more of just making sure they stay focused when they're at home, making sure they're doing it, that they're getting through their lessons, making sure they're not getting overly frustrated and bogged down during that time. And, if that's the case, they need a break and to come back to it.
Right.
But that focused time, like I said, really does make a big difference, that it is specific and tailored to their needs. And that is also the purpose in getting them that, that help after school, that tutoring help, those things that can really have them more individualized. It's a game changer.
Absolutely. And something that I've talked about before is like this idea that you can teach everyone the same lesson, but all the kids are going to take different parts of it, or might be at different levels, or experience different things. So I love the idea that we're catering, or you're catering to each child's needs, because I think that's really where we see success happen. I did want to talk a little bit. You talked about how parents or students are given online learning platforms. Mm-hmm. So I noticed that a lot of parents do struggle with those. What advice would you give parents or teachers listening to better approach those online learning platforms?
really not to help them. That's been the biggest struggle with our families. The student says they're struggling. They keep doing the same lesson over and over, and it keeps, they're not passing it. So they had to do it again, and they had some remediation. But I tell families that's what they need. So if they step in and start helping them, it overinflates, it thinks now that they got it, and it moves them on to higher lessons, which then causes them more frustration. So they really do have to step back and let them work through it. And like I said, don't let them work to the point of over frustration. Let them take a break, but don't provide them the answers. That's really the biggest thing. It needs to be authentic to the child. And once they do have it, then, the technology is adaptive. So it will see that they've gotten it, and we'll move them on when it's ready, or we'll further remediate as needed.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important, as well as knowing the balance between letting your child be independent and knowing when to provide help is a skill in itself.
And sometimes they can't help a little bit, just clarifying and explaining. It's not they can't do some of that, but just be cognizant of not over helping in circumstances.
Absolutely. There is a fine line, that balance that needs to be had for learning to occur. Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask, as principal of Pinecrest Academy Sloan Canyon, what do you consider your most impactful strategies in leading a higher performing charter school?
Well, and so for us being a K-12, there's a lot of things that are unique, but there is a lot of things that can be transferred to other environments. So, for us, really, there is a lot with the differentiation, as we've talked about, of really now. A lot of times in middle school and high school and secondary levels, you do not see as much of the differentiation. It's more tends to be, an elementary type. When they've got them all day, they're a little more comfortable with pulling small groups and doing that. You don't tend to see it as much in the middle school and high school levels. So that is something we've really tried to grow up in our, across our grade levels, that differentiation and one-on-one help is beneficial at every stage. And so whether it's an AP class, whether it's what grade level it is, no matter what subject it is, every student needs that. So, and it needs to be fluid as well, that it's not the same group coming over all the time, that there is one-on-one conferencing time. That has been very helpful in our secondary levels as well, that each student has the opportunity to come over to their teacher, go over any questions, go over problems that they've missed. And then when they're pulling groups, like I said, that's fluid and it's really standards-based. It's not just, I'm pulling this group because they're, at this level, and I have another group that I pull at this level. The group should change because today we are working on this standard. This is the lesson we're doing. I see from my pretest that these students are struggling with that. That's who I'm going to pull, give them a little bit of extra instruction before we go into that unit and that lesson. So really so it's been a great thing having our teachers work together a lot, so that, our secondary teachers have the opportunity to observe elementary doing that since they've had more practice with it, and vice versa. We have our elementary teachers go and kind of give feedback. But getting all of our teachers to adopt that model, also having them being comfortable with being open about that data. It's teachers sometimes tend to protect it and be fearful of, my class didn't do as well, right on this, it's these, let's say it's the mid-year data, and they're not seeing the growth that they hope to see. You've got to be open about it. You've got to be reflective. You've got to talk to other teachers in your department, in your grade level, get feedback, look at who is having success. You work with them, get some feedback. And sometimes even we have master teachers that, can struggle from time to time. It's kind of any stage in the game. You could have different dynamics for that class. You can have just different struggles that are taking place that we need, all of our staff to be comfortable with that, and make changes. So there's definitely a lot of, as we get that mid-year data, there's, what adjustments do we need to make? And sometimes it's at different spots all the time. So it's always, it's going to be a different grade level. It's going to be a different content. It's going to be different things that we need to make those adjustments. But then when we get to that end of year data, you can really see the impact of those, which is exciting. Then they see the why. They see like, okay, that worked. I was willing to do it. Also being a K-12, another thing is that we're able to have that vertical alignment from when students are in elementary and then move to middle and then move to high school. Of that, too often students leave elementary when they move to middle. There's not really a lot of discussion and a lot of collaboration about what strategies work, because when they move into middle school, it's often large. It's students coming from different places. So really trying to enhance some of that transition and make it a little more successful, so that there's not a lag. As soon as they get into middle school, sometimes there's a lag, and then they have to kind of build back up. And same thing happens in high school. So those strategies could definitely be replicated everywhere. Of what things can we do to communicate with those previous grade levels, or do that vertical alignment throughout the year so that those sixth grade and ninth grade teachers kind of are familiar with where they were at coming in, where were they already succeeding, and what areas do we see that they needed right when they get here. I'm going to have to support them right away in these areas they were struggling with. Yeah.
So how do you motivate teachers during those times when they are expecting maybe their students to do better than they do? How do you motivate them through that?
Really providing the support, because they have to feel that they're not on their own doing it. So we do have reflective practice subs, which are subs that we hire in-house. So, they fill vacancies if a teacher has to call in last minute, but they also allow teachers to go do those observations. So I want them to realize that we encourage that we, want them to go get that feedback, and we will help them. We will also help them with the conversation afterwards of going and kind of sitting with them. What did you see? What do you think you would feel comfortable trying? Because just because you see something in someone else's classroom doesn't mean it's going to work for you. I mean, everyone has their own style. So sometimes we'll talk about how could you do that differently that it would work for you? Or, or having them observe a couple of different teachers and what things did you pick from here or there? So really, like I said, it's making it comfortable that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to say, I'm struggling here. Can you come in and watch me? Can you come, and so being present as much as possible, just being that comfort level of that it's not going to, go against them. It's not going to be a detriment for them to, really it's a strength. I mean, we are going to say, I applaud you for reaching out for help and that. And so that's just getting that mindset, and it takes some time. And, and typically too, when we'll have new teachers come on board, it takes some time for them to see that, to see some of those other teachers doing it and doing it well, and knowing, okay, that is the culture.
Yeah. That's, I feel like, a very unique culture that everyone would benefit from adapting, is the ability to receive constructive criticism and also be able to learn from others in your environment. So I love that.
And the students see it too. I mean, it'll be conversations sometimes that those teachers have with their students. Okay, we have been doing this. It doesn't seem to be, I'm not seeing the growth we need to see. We're going to try this, So students, it's important for them to see you can change, because something's not working, figure out what works best.
It doesn't, and you have to keep doing that thing.
And that's definitely a communication with families. I mean, there's a lot of different strategies we'll encourage families to try at home. So, to try to help them as best as possible. So
I love that approach. I think it's super beneficial. I want to ask you a little bit about your responsibilities of being a CCSD board trustee. How do you balance those duties with your role as a principal? We talked a little bit about it. Maybe we can go in a little deeper.
And I, like I said, I'm fortunate to have a great support system in all of the realms. So, my family definitely supports and is understanding of my purpose and why I want to spend my time and contribute and give back to education. I mean, but I do think for my own children, I think it definitely is valuable for them to see that their education is important, but not just their education, the education of everyone as a whole and in our state. So. I just really try to balance it by communicating. I mean, definitely I try to balance the different requests and priorities and make sure that, if I can't attend something, that they understand why and how I'm juggling my time. But like I said, I have been, pretty able to, I think, do that as well. A lot of the CCSD board meetings are in the evening, which is valuable because that's when a lot of the staff can attend as well. So there's days where I go visit campuses, CCSD campuses, and are attending events and different things like that. But I'm able to communicate with my staff at Pinecrest Sloan Canyon. They're able to help support me as well and when I'm out.
So you talked a little bit about your family's support. How does your role as a mother impact both you as a principal and trustee at CCSD?
Well, I'm fortunate that all my kids are at my campus, so that does help. So I have that luxury that being a K-12, that they're all with me. So that definitely helps juggle it. Also helps me with just knowing everything that's going on and being able to manage, all of the commitments. So, I mean, it's just, I when it's for a good cause and when I feel like it has the purpose, it makes it worthwhile. And like I said, I think my family definitely sees that. But I still hold very strong to there are certain family things that I will not compromise, and they have, and everyone has to be understanding of that's, and I tell that to my staff as well. I'm very supportive of my staff, that family comes first. So, and that helps really create our climate and culture. I really want the climate and culture of my staff to be that they know they can come to me when things are happening. They know they can have that support or that flexibility of, when life events happen, that they could take care of those. They can focus on their family and still have their position, have that support at school, that we're going to do everything to keep things moving, in their absence. So, it's kind of lead by example on that as well.
Yeah. So do your kids like that you're principal?
For the most part.
I have to ask.
Yes, my boys are just now in high school. They are freshmen at high school. So I don't know. In the high school years, we'll see. We'll see how they feel about having me there for their entire education. Yeah.
I love that. I also, something that you mentioned was fostering this ability for individuals to be individuals in the workplace. And I think that outside of education, your experience and your perspective in how you treat the workplace or how you treat the school employees, I think is so valuable.
Yes.
For everyone to learn and everyone to adapt, because I think we often are expected to forget family or to put it aside.
Yeah.
So I think that's so valuable and important.
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed.
Yeah. How does your educational philosophy influence your decision-making, both as principal and board member?
Definitely my educational philosophy, and I do say it to my staff a lot, is really centers around, it's a kids first mentality, but I want kids to love coming to school. I really think that everything we do in education, everything just boils down to, if kids aren't happy, if they don't want to be there, if they don't wake up wanting to come to school, they are not going to absorb the lesson. They are going to be focused on what they need to do. There's too much stress. I mean, it's just so crucial that we are really reaching the whole child. Mm-hmm. So I really, although we have high rigor and high expectations, I make sure that our kids know we're going to have fun too. We're going to have a positive atmosphere. I really like for things to be positive, supportive, happy, smiling at students, doing fun things. I mean, I do lots of silly things at opening ceremonies and all kinds of stuff. I mean, I just want them to know it's a place that they're going to be happy, that their teacher cares about them, that everyone on staff cares about them. They can come to somebody when they need help. That is just so crucial. I mean, I say it all the time, you can have the best lesson plan, created. It can be fantastic. But if the kid is not there with you, if they don't feel that connection, it's not going to go anywhere. So much of what I do in my education philosophy is trying to make decisions that are what's in the best interest of the student and the family. It's hard, sometimes you get caught up in so many things going on and you're being pulled in so many different directions. But even while being pulled in so many directions, just trying to think of, okay, when you're making a decision or, casting a vote or lending an input, at a board meeting, to just make sure that you're thinking of what's best for the community, what's best for the kids, and what is really going to help culture and climate wise, So that's where I just see sometimes a lot of the struggles we have, a lot of the issues with data. If that culture and climate can help get better, we'll start to see some of the work and efforts that we're putting into some of these other areas also start to rise.
Yeah. I always say something that I embody in my parenting is try to embrace this idea. You don't have to love everything you learn, but if you love to learn, you can do anything. And you don't have to know everything, but if you love to learn, you can go so many different places. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Can you describe a little bit, in your opinion, what are the primary benefits and drawbacks possibly of charter schools compared to traditional public schools?
Mm-hmm. Great question. And that gets asked a lot, obviously, a lot of families. And there's so many misconceptions still out there. A lot of families do not know what charter or private. There's even new types of schools, micro schools, homeschooling. There's a lot of education options. Really, I do think it's valuable for there to be options. I mean, really, education, like so many things in our world, are not one size fits all. So, I mean, the public schools do a fantastic job of education. There's always room for growth, always things that we're doing to continue to make it better. But no one school, I don't feel, can meet every student's needs necessarily. So, I mean, for our campus, I'll have families that I work with, and I'll share with them, these are the programs we have in place. This is our mission and vision and the things that we're doing, and we obviously do everything we can to meet every student's needs. But sometimes it's just not a fit, and I completely respect that. There are, when you get into charter schools as well, a couple things to know. One is that charter schools are public schools. We are publicly funded. We have a charter school has the same state guidelines, state testing, state licensing requirement for teachers. So all of those things are the same as any public school. So you're, comparing apples to apples there. Our funding is a little bit different. We do not get facilities funding. So that is where we are, having to try to make those dollars stretch a little bit longer, or sometimes do other types of grants or fundraising opportunities to try to get to that same monetary budgetary level. But they are typically smaller. So I'll have some families that, although we want to provide as much of a comprehensive environment, with activities, clubs, sports, all of those things, it is definitely a smaller scale. So which a lot of families appreciate and love, because there's a little bit more one-to-one attention on our students. But sometimes there are students too that want that larger, more comprehensive, particularly depending on what their focus is, depending on maybe what CTE programs are offered, what magnet programs are offered at a school. There's just so many different variables. So that's why I just really tell families, do your research. Your family, your child better than anyone. So that's where it's important to look into all the options. Definitely look into individual charter schools, because charter schools are managed differently. They have different boards. So where CCSD is one board for the entire district, charter schools have their own boards, or may have one board for a system. Like the Pinecrest system of schools has one board, but our board is different than Doral or Somerset or the other systems. So there would be some differences, so it's important, like I said, and just because one charter school, you may see that they're, not performing up to par or performing or excelling, doesn't mean that another charter school in another location is going to have those same results.
Right.
So, yeah.
Absolutely. How do you see the role of charter schools evolving in the future of American education?
Definitely, I see the growth. I've seen the growth since I began in the charter school world. There has been a lot of growth, a lot of demand as families in different areas are having different needs and wanting those school choice options. I see a lot of good growth. I also, sometimes is concerning when charter schools are popping up and, they might not have the support or the backing that is needed. So I think it's very important for charter schools to have that accountability, that monitoring. We currently are monitored by the State Public Charter School Authority. There is some expansion to have other areas be authorizers as well. North Las Vegas and City of Henderson have applied and been accepted to be authorizers. So I do see there being maybe a shift in some more local autonomy over the charter schools, and and kind of really identifying what the focus is for that community versus where it was a little more broad. So I can kind of see it transitioning a little bit that way as we're moving forward, and that may open up even more. As if there's success with those municipalities doing that, then I could definitely see it expanding.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm interested to see how that plays out, because, if we think about every student learns differently, maybe it is beneficial.
Yeah, there are so many, the needs are so different. And in my role as CCSD trustee, I meet with my rural communities as well, because serving the Clark County, of some of my schools are rural. So, and that's a lot of the feedback that I get from those communities, is that some of the things that are being done just might not quite be what is needed in that rural community. So trying to make sure that we're allowing for that adjustment and then those needs to be met.
Absolutely. So can you discuss any of the innovative programs or teaching methods that you've implemented at Pinecrest that you believe should be adopted more widely? I know we discussed this a little bit, but I want to really focus on those changes that you've made or implemented.
Yeah. It really is the things that I was speaking to earlier of using the data. I think that over the years, we've all gotten, I do see it in education as a whole. I see it, in my experience as a trustee of looking at the data, getting the debriefings on the data so that it's very transparent to the board, to the families, to the community. The more that families can understand the data as well and how to support their students at home is so much better. I really work with our staff a lot to be as transparent as possible with families, because, nothing is worse than a family hearing later in the school year that their child was struggling, but, their grades sometimes their grades don't really reflect that. I really want grading to be authentic. I really push that a lot, that families really need to know how their student is performing so that they can provide that support at home as well. Or that by the time they can see those, and I tell the teachers as well, tell them the strategies you're putting in place. Tell them the differentiation is taking place, because that way they can see where they were, they can see what things were put in place. they can have that communication with what you're doing at school, how they can support it at home. And then that vertical alignment then so that everything that you did then carries over. We're not kind of restarting each year. That's where, educators in the profession really need that collaboration time, and it's hard to build into their busy schedules. But as much information as we can carry forward with students, and particularly when you're going to different schools and those transition periods, is really important, because a lot of great things happen and a lot of growth happens. And then we want to just keep that trajectory. And definitely that differentiation at the secondary level. Yeah. It's the more we can train teachers to do that, to work that time into their daily schedule. For secondary teachers, it's a short amount of time. They have the kids. So trying to find ways to build in, some of that more engagement where students have the opportunity to speak, collaborate, talk to their partners. I mean, really, you need to see the kids talking more than the teacher. So that's, getting them out of that comfort zone, getting them, pulling groups, pulling students up to really work one-on-one, providing feedback. So those are things that are good strategies. But I understand, as we have so many teachers, across the county and across our district, trying to get them trained on how to do that well, because it really takes some time and some learning. It's one thing you have to get comfortable with your content, and then, and to also be able to build that differentiation in, it really does require support and training.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you foster community and parental involvement at Pinecrest? And if you could give some examples of those strategies working.
Yes, absolutely. So, and that is something, since I opened Sloan Canyon, well, I grew up in Texas. So I grew up in a small town in Texas. So it was very much a community feel. It was the Friday night lights. Everybody's at the game. Everybody knows everybody in high school and everything that's going on. I mean, it really was a community feel. People go to the school for events, even if they have a child or not at the school. So when I came here, I just really had a vision of trying to establish more of that community feel. I want parents to be able to, attend things, come in and volunteer, be a part of the environment. It was really stressful for me whenever we had COVID and had to limit volunteers and are now, working them back in, bringing them back in, but trying to get that culture reestablished that I feel like we had before COVID, and are really trying to get it back into place. So I try to do as many community events on campus as possible. We do, farmers markets. At our football games, I have different community heroes that we recognize for each game, and things to really, like I said, bring community to our campus. Opportunities for our students to go out in the community and see things, to take field trips, to do internships, those things to where they're really connecting with the community and seeing what their potential opportunities are here, that they don't even necessarily, I want as many students that don't have to leave to go pursue their career and their options to stay with us, and work locally. So just, expanding those opportunities as well to really have our campus be, a part of the community, a community hub as well. So that's something I'm always trying to advocate for. I did give for the first few years, we had a fun run, which was our largest fundraiser for the campus. So for the first few years, we did that. We took the proceeds. But then as I'm working with our PTO, and our PTO is developing strength and getting larger, I gave that fundraiser to them because I want them to be able to focus on doing more of the community events. So now, instead of charging families for some of these community events throughout the year, they do the fundraiser at the beginning of the year, and that helps fund those events. It helps fund speakers coming in to be able to provide, additional resources for families, things like that. So that way I can kind of have them help with that school to community connection as well.
Yeah, so I love that. The sense of community is invaluable. I also grew up in a smaller town, and that is something that I've slowly seen build in Vegas. It's the sense of community, and it's because of people like you who are really driving that focus on community.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So looking ahead, what are some of your goals for the next few years?
Well, if I think of goals as a CCSD trustee, we are definitely in a pivotal point right now. So we have, a lot going on. We have a trustee vacancy. So one of our seats is vacant currently. So we're going to be discussing navigating that and how that's going to play out. We also are in the middle of the superintendent search. So we have a lot of things to make decisions about right now, a lot of things to decide and to really come together as. We will see a lot of changes, I anticipate, as there are some new board members that will be coming on our board with the new election. There are some seats that are up for election. So we will have some new board members. So in January, it will definitely be a focus to try to build some cohesiveness, some collaboration with our new board members, because we're simultaneously going to be getting new board members and appointing a new trustee and selecting a new superintendent.
Yeah.
So we really have to be a team in selecting this new superintendent. It's going to be a lot of effort to make sure that we're listening to the community throughout this process, that we're really coming together as we all, as all of these people, entities come working together, that we get somebody as a superintendent that really shares the visions of the community, that is listening to the community, that will work well with the board, that we really are collaborating and having that mindset of the culture and climate, as I spoke about, of really focusing on that in our decision making moving forward. So I'm really eager. I'm really anticipating some good things happening. It's definitely going to be a lot of work to get there. But I am hopeful that some of these changes will really bring us in the right direction moving forward. There are a lot of great things in place. I mean, as we are looking at our data, we're seeing some incremental changes. It's not where we need to be, but some of the kind of things are being laid out that will assist. And like I said, hopefully getting a new leader and working with our new board, we can really take it to that next level. And so we need to escalate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do you suggest that parents get involved in this process? Because I know that there is a place for them to get involved.
Yes, so there are surveys. The surveys did close. There are a few more focus groups that are still available. But definitely you can email. I mean, but particularly if the search does get extended with the trustee position vacancy, we're going to evaluate the timeline of the superintendent search. So there may be some additional time for community members to send some follow-up emails. Definitely, we will also be televising the interviews. So that's a great opportunity, even though some of it may be in the evening, some may be during the day, but they will be recorded and they will be available for viewing. So we'd love to hear feedback, on the candidate specifically. So not only feedback right now of what are you looking to see in a person, but some feedback as well once we see who some of those candidates are and who do we think would be the best fit. But they definitely can reach out to their trustee, to any, or the board as a whole. You can send in, community can send an email to the entire board of trustees. They can send it specifically to their elected or appointed trustee. And we read those. We do. So so even if we're not able to respond to every single email, we do read all of them and take those into account. And a lot of the things that we say at the board meetings or questions that we ask come straight from things that I'm seeing that is sent to me, questions from the community. So I use that for questions.
Yeah, I think it's so important for, anyone listening, parents or teachers, to know like who they can go to really to voice their concerns and be part of this, because I think that it's important that everyone has a voice. And so I appreciate that you, kind of provided that pathway of where they can communicate. Yeah. I will leave it off by asking you if there's anything else that you'd like to share with our listeners about the future of education or your ongoing project.
Let's see. I mean, definitely just building that collaborative relationship with everybody involved. I mean, whether it's at the teacher level, their administrators, their trustees, the school in a whole. I mean, the more that they can be involved, and I know it's hard, I know it's tough, but and sometimes it's just reading the things that come your way. I know some families can't be there, can't attend everything, and we're definitely sympathetic to that. But as much as you can kind of keep track of what's going on, just kind of keep on the pulse, definitely helps everyone be more informed and know what questions to ask as well.
Yeah,
when those attend as much as possible. Definitely take time out when those parent-teacher conferences come up. Send the emails. If you can't be there in person, definitely ask questions, because so many times I'll have families upset about something, and once I'm able to explain what the decision making was or why this decision was made, it makes so much sense. So instead of sitting there just wondering or not understanding, please reach out and ask, or stop us. Anywhere. I'm always fine being stopped. It doesn't matter. In a grocery store or wherever. I'd rather have the conversation and put someone's mind at ease than have them frustrated and not knowing and thinking different than it, the actual decision was. So it's helpful to be able to clarify things.
Absolutely. And now if our listeners want to contact you or keep up with you, how can they do that?
And both emails are on the respective websites as well. So on the Pinecrest Sloan Canyon website, my email is on there.
Perfect.
And then on the CCSD website, there's a trustee tab and a link to all of our emails for there.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Principal Satori. I appreciate your time for sharing your perspective on education and community. It is truly invaluable. I really appreciated hearing how you approach education, how you approach innovation and technology in your educational environment at Pinecrest Sloan Canyon. I also, again, really appreciate the insights that you bring as being a CCSD board trustee. And if you want to learn more about Principal Satori, you can visit either website at Pinecrest or the CCSD board trustee website and get your information from there. But thank you so much for listening. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.